Three, two, one.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Grok Talk, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, granitegrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from granitegrok.com.
Grok Talk.
All right, thanks to Greg Moore for coming in at 8:30 to talk to us about the budget. Ron Moore for coming to talk to us on the phone about weather. And we're going to be moving on with Ed Naile in a second to talk about some interstate climate activity of the vote fraud variety. And it's always good to get an update because so many things go on that we can't squeeze into 2 hours every week, which is why we went to 2.5 hours this week. But this is Grok Talk, brought to you by granitegrok.com, New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, and the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers, who is responsible for allowing us to use this space to have this broadcast every week, except for last week. So let's move on with the chairman of the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers, who got some press this week.
Yeah, I was misquoted.
And misquoted, and they got the name of your organization wrong.
Yeah, you know when you have a teenager leaning over you with a notepad, there's going to be trouble.
You're the Correlation of New Hampshire what?
Yeah, constipation or something like that. I'm not sure.
Constipation of New Hampshire Taxpayers. That actually works.
Yeah, I didn't. We're trying to constipate some other people. But,
that's right.
we're
You got some vote fraud news for us.
Yeah, let's do somebody from Pennsylvania that votes here. Her name is Jenna Rakovan. And Jenna Rakovan, JennaRakovan. She's the only Jenna Rakovan in America. That's a tough thing to do when you're trying to vote in 2 states. So here's her background. You don't do well with photocopies on a radio program, but what we have is a young lady who appears to have voted in Dover. And here's my list of the first 50 of the people sent to me by Dave Scott in Dover, who mailed everybody.
Right, from
who
the
voted
last
November
time you
4th.
were on, he had a list.
Yeah. Very first guy was Robert Baker. And Robert Baker is Robert D. Baker of Lower East 19. That's his address. And the post office sent it back saying it is unable to forward. There's different categories for people in Dover who vote there but apparently don't live there. Unable to forward, no such number, no such street, attempted, not known, moved, left no address, and insufficient address. So one of those 6 things is why your letter is returned once it's been mailed to somebody on the checklist. So we have like 1,500 of these to go through. Caught the very first guy. I have a bunch of these highlighted. Jenna Rakovan's about maybe 15 or so down, 15 or 18 down. Jenna Rakovan works for Rutgers University on Mystic Island in New Jersey near Egg Harbor. And I believe she lives in a dorm there that the facility has at Rutgers University.
College student.
No, she's 29 years old. So,
in a dorm.
Well, it's a dormitory. Let's not squirrel it too much yet. Let's calm down. She lives in a dorm that's supplied for this marine biology base that Rutgers has on the New Jersey coast. Okay? But she is a registered active voter in the town of Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. So I have her records from there. These are screenshots from the Pennsylvania database. Jenna Rakovan, 3/29/1985, age 29, female. Her parents live at 70 Bayberry Lane, Phoenixville, PA, and she has been voting there since she first started voting in 2000. I don't know, it was 2008 anyway. We have a vote. 2008 she voted by absentee, according to the Pennsylvania's database. You see the little envelope there.
So she did the right thing.
In 2008, but I don't know whether she voted here in 2008. In 2008, she was a UNH college student.
So she did the right thing.
I don't know whether she voted here in 2008 as well.
Oh, as well. There's the link.
So New Hampshire has sloppy records. I can't just go get records from New Hampshire. So in Pennsylvania, I can. So what I do is I mail off.
And even if you get records, if they're
You can't
bad,
trust them.
they're probably wrong because that's what the AG will say.
Yeah, I caught a guy named Jared Stephen Cram, and within days of announcing his name on Gerard at Large, the Secretary of State's office was conducting their own investigation as to whether or not he voted here in 2008, and they found out he didn't.
They're tracking.
So the records of Jared Stephen Cram for 2008 show that he didn't vote in 2008. I have his complete record from Pennsylvania going back to 1998. And New Hampshire says, oh, must have been one big mistake. He didn't vote here. Well, he didn't vote there either. So here's a political activist that works for campaigns, is a treasurer for somebody running for city council in Philadelphia, is part of the Philadelphia Democrat machine and didn't vote in 2008. He was training poll watchers in 2008. I know that from the internet. But New Hampshire says, oh, our internal investigation, which I haven't seen, says he didn't vote here.
As a great big eraser.
Now, that couldn't happen. Yeah. That couldn't happen in 2012 when he voted in Wilton because he wrote a 300-word essay about it and put it on the Daily Kos. Okay. Now back to Jenna Rackavan. Jenna Rackavan, her name comes up on the list. So my obligation is when Dave sends me 50 names, I go down through the names. I have some highlighted. I got about a third of these are voters in other states. Like this, I can't give the names out now, but the second guy on the list I have is being in Maine. A couple others. I got one in Dover, Delaware. Votes in Dover, New Hampshire, but she lives in Dover, Delaware. That all of her data comes back there, and you find these interesting names.
Name city, come on.
Like Jenna Rackavan is one of a kind. So I go through those names first. Robert Baker was hard to catch. Once I had the middle name and I had his birth date, then all of his other addresses in Dover line up. His 2 phone numbers with a 603 area code and a Florida area code match up. So when you do those numbers, it comes up Robert D. Baker. So I have him. Now, he voted in Florida according to Florida's records, and he voted here according to our records. So now I turn him into Florida, which I've done. And they'll decide if he really does live in Florida, in Parkland, Florida, he'll get a letter from the elections board down there saying, could you tell us, where you're voting? They can instantly go see where his driver's license is located. Does he have a Florida license or a New Hampshire license? So, back to Jenna Rackavan. 29 years old, so she's been a UNH student. So I imagine she's been indoctrinated to how things work here. I'm having trouble understanding why Jenna Rackavan, who is street name St. John 2C, apartment 2C, or 2C address in St. John, which the post office says is number 2. That is no such number. So if you have a driver's license in New Hampshire and this is your address, how's that work? Did you give a bad address to Pennsylvania, to New Hampshire for your driver's license? Or is your driver's license at 70 Bayberry Road in Phoenixville, PA, 19460? I remember that zip code because that's where I used to live, in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. I know where her house is. And if Jenna listens to this, I can tell her, Jenna, I used to eat at the G Lodge across the street from your parents' house. So that'll be a little creepy. The hair on the back of the neck will stand up. So what I've done is I got a Chester County Voter Services envelope, and I mailed this off. And this is the application. This is why this takes so long. If you're wondering why you can't just catch these people, you have to fill out these forms and request the data like I did with Jared Stephen Cram. And then I have a little note here. Oh, by the way, she votes in New Hampshire as well. And then I'll contact them after they send me this stuff. So I send this out. I get back everything I can possibly get on Jenna, and then we go on the radio and probably tweet her or email her and say, hey, would you like to respond? So her response is going to be, I'm the only Jenna Rackavan in America. Someone voted by my name in New Hampshire. Maybe that happened. Somebody just thought up the name Jenna Rackavan.
We've heard that one before.
Yeah, I'll just vote here and I'll use the name Jenna Rackavan. That'll work. So were you somewhere else, Jenna? Because once we go public with you, you have some explaining to do.
Well, you said that as soon as you went after Gerald Cram, you heard from the AG's office indirectly.
Secretary of State's office.
Yeah, so now are you going to hear from them again? Because obviously they're tracking you.
Yeah, what I'll do is what I did in the case of Jared Cram, I did a right-to-know request to the Secretary of State's office, and I said, can I have all correspondence between October 10th and October 21st regarding the town of Wilton where he voted? And they sent me like 6 pages of stuff. So I have that. So they may be smart enough not to do that again, because that builds my case. What in the world weeks before the election here in New Hampshire, is the Secretary of State's office doing an internal investigation into Jared Cram because I said his name over Rich Gerard's radio program in Manchester. Aren't we busy over there before an election? We have time to look up and make sure that Jared doesn't get in trouble. So, in any case, Jared's in trouble.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This one's...
Not here, but in Pennsylvania,
and why would
right?
that be?
Well, I turned him over to some authorities in Pennsylvania. So this one's confidential. I'll just pass it around, and you guys can go, ooh, ah, and I think the viewers and readers, listeners, will understand. So what we do is, in New Hampshire, I can't get information on a voter, even though the voters voted. They don't receive mail a couple of weeks after the election. We don't keep enough information on them, like birth dates and where they last voted and real addresses. You can vote. Apparently, you can vote with a phony address or a made-up address or insufficient address or no such street. You can just walk in and make up a street. As long as you have a driver's license from any state, you can vote in New Hampshire. So I've abandoned that effort. The heck with New Hampshire. I go to the other state. Now, Susan, in other states, they seem to care whether or not somebody votes in Pennsylvania and in New Hampshire, because sometimes you belong to associations that might be interested in that. So we go wherever the path will lead to correct the situation. So after we are finished with Jared, Stephen Cram, and Jenna, maybe Jenna can respond to Pennsylvania authorities, and I'll get a copy of that. And she can easily explain why maybe she has a twin sister with the exact same name, or that there was nowhere else for her to vote, so she went to an anonymous address in Dover and voted there.
I like the top of what it says here on this.
Yeah, you
I'm
can't
not going to read it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to read it, but
it might jeopardize my hearing.
But this is a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So Mr. Cram is not like most of the voters. So there'll eventually be a spot on the wall here for a trophy. You know, like a head on a board shaped like Jared Cram.
See, now all we need is to get a scan of his head. We'll get somebody with a 3D printer, and we literally could make a trophy head for
his
you.
picture's on the front page of CNHT's website. Jenna will go up shortly. If you look her up on the internet, you'll see there's pictures of her in there holding fish and whatnot. She's holding all kinds of records and things for. She's a biologist, so that's what she does. Travels around.
Could we call this a cram down, or should we hold that statement for a couple of weeks?
Well, hang on. We've had a lot of fun with Jared because he responded to a tweet that Rich Gerard sent him, like that day. I can't believe he did it. He's apparently not very smart for being a member of Mensa. But that's Jenna Rakovan, JennaRakovan, Jenna Rakovan of 70 Bayberry Drive, Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, 19460, is voting in New Hampshire from an address that does not exist according to the post office, and 2 mailings. So I'll get back to Dave. I'll get a copy of the envelopes that were sent back saying no such address or no such street.
Well, it seems to me there's an open opportunity here in this case, because she lives in Pennsylvania, or her parents do. So
that's where she votes from.
She has an anchor address.
Yep.
She's voted in New Hampshire, but she's located at Rutgers.
Correct.
So anybody want to bet whether she's voted at Rutgers?
Already checked. She's not listed in New Jersey's database. So
wow.
We caught 3-fers before. We caught people registered in 3 states and D.C.
Who have also answered tweets from the Gerard Show.
You got to wonder. So maybe Jenna, we have some email for her. We'll send her an email and see if she can straighten this out. I know New Hampshire's not interested.
No, not at all.
So why would they care if I do it?
Yeah, it seems to me.
I'm not charging them anything. I'm doing this for free, right?
Seems
the
to
public
me
service.
We could drop a couple of hints and have the New Hampshire Secretary.
Bill Gardner?
Secretary of State.
Yeah.
Follow up on false leads and just see how.
That's what I'm looking for. See, I'm basically. You could make the argument that I'm intimidating Jenna.
You?
Right. Voter
really?
intimidation's a crime. So I would be interested in having a visit from somebody, some authority, and then we could play this out in a courtroom somewhere, and I could prove whether or not I'm right, or Jen is right, or Jared Cram is right, Jared Stephen Cram, or Robert D. Baker is right, or Caitlin Ann Legacki is right.
Tell me something. Smile, please. Does that look like an intimidating face?
Oh. It's apparently it
You know,
was several times because it's been punched.
This whole
I've had 12 stitches in this thing.
This whole,
as has been quoted from somewhere in the Florida bunker, he's just a harmless, lovable little fuzzball.
we,
So that's how you track voter fraud. And here's the other thing that why I go on the radio and I do workshops. We need tips. Jared came from a tip of somebody who went to one of my workshops. So they knew what to look for, and they handed us like a tuna. You know, here you are. So, I mean, this guy we tracked him. We got everything on him. So it's a wonderful catch. It's always encouraging to go back to Jared, and Jared has a future with us, as you can see from the letter. Either way,
well, we can
in.
explore that future shortly. We're going to take 60 seconds, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, CNHT.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at gerardatlarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Welcome back. Talking about vote fraud.
Honky
Honky-tonk vote fraud. You know, I was thinking it's got to be pretty hard to prove vote suppression because all you really need is an envelope and a stamp and an absentee ballot from any place, really. Mm-hmm. And then you could vote just like you thought you lived in New Hampshire because they do that here all the time. They vote absentee here from wherever the heck they are in the world, and they claim to vote absentee from addresses in our state. So, I mean, if that's the case, then what's the big deal? This person clearly is allowed to vote from anywhere they want. How could I possibly suppress their vote?
Yeah, it wasn't suppressed up to this point.
Nope.
But I'm going to pick somebody. I'm not sure whether it's going to be Jared or not. If Pennsylvania resolves Jared's issue to my satisfaction, we'll just use him as an example.
Oh, it's an excellent example too, because I mean,
we got
if
him
you
multiple
say,
ways.
all you have to do is say to people, "Look, nobody in this state, is going to punish you for being registered and voting in 2 states, but that doesn't mean your home state won't punish you," which is exactly what you're doing.
We've been saying that since 2000.
Yeah.
Or
So
social media.
Now we're starting to. It's look up Caitlin Ann Lagaki sometime or Janice Rottenberg. Janice Rottenberg.
Yeah.
It's hi, I'm Janice Rottenberg on Google, and the next 15 articles are low life vote thief. So go try and get a job someplace other than a campaign. Campaigns would love you.
Oh yeah,
I know one guy we caught was
plaque on the wall.
Jeff Witrowski. He's got himself a really good job with the AFL-CIO. So they're looking for people like that, apparently.
Crooks.
Multiple
Yeah,
states.
they need crooks.
That know how to do vote fraud.
Right to the top. So
Right.
what we're doing now is following up on what Dave Scott has done in Dover, and that is by simply mailing people who voted letters, getting those letters back and saying, let's do it again. We send them another letter, and you have those 2 facts in your hand. You have their name on the checklist, and all I need to prove that somebody voted in New Hampshire is that their name is checked off the checklist. I don't have to show it was that person because that's a public document. So if I say, Jared Stephen Cram is on that checklist, I'm good to go. No one can say, oh, you're just making this up, or this is personal, or you can't prove it. All I have to do is say, there we go. That vote was eliminated. Someone else's vote was eliminated because that name was checked off. That's all I have to prove. So I've gone that step. We have the list of who voted, and then I go to the internet and say, wow, look at this. I found your name, your same middle. It's Jenna L. Rackavan. Got your middle initial. I got your birth date in another state. Now you've got some explaining to do. Not to New Hampshire, but the state you're from. Pennsylvania's interesting, and I like catching people from Pennsylvania because Title 25 is their election law. Title 25, 1302B, when one enters another state and votes in any of that state's elections, you lose your residency in the Commonwealth. So,
which would also mean your driver's license would be revoked.
When you go back to vote again, they say, well, you've been removed, or you're going to get a letter from the state saying you're gone. So and other states have different statutes as well. North Carolina the same way. If you vote, I believe North Carolina is one of the 8 or so. If you vote in another state, you lose your residency. In some states, residency is very important for getting driver's license to anything. So it's a mark on your record. It's going to be on the internet because we have enough internet impact that whatever any of us write is on there within minutes. You can pull it up, and it doesn't go away for a long time. So that's our method for catching them. Thank you very much for the state of New Hampshire for absolutely no help and actually being a stumbling block. Bill Gardner was reelected, reappointed, reanointed as Secretary of State again.
Secretary of State for life.
For life.
Well, why wouldn't he be? There's been a succession of Democrat governors or
well, he's elected by the House, I believe. He's never had another job. He's never had another job, and he's also a double dipper.
That's all I know how to do.
I think he should retire. He had a golden opportunity to not run again. So if this blows up in everybody's face, that's the face everybody's going to look at.
Well, question. We've made the statement before that if you're looking for normal work outside of politics, this is going to haunt you. Mm-hmm. And you just said, but campaigns are looking for this. Is it really the case? And I'll say on both sides of the aisle, where if you are a very good pitcher, say, to use a Major League Baseball analogy here, you're known for throwing spitballs and beaning people and stuff, but if you put up lots of W's, they're going to hire you and pay you well anyways. Is that what we're seeing with Jared Cram and some of these other folks?
Yeah, look at the, not particularly voting, but the 2 young ladies who used to work for Senator Schumer that got caught going into the credit card history of somebody, Lieutenant Governor of Maryland. Remember that? Those guys, and they've had a nice little career for themselves doing stuff like that, getting access to stuff. What are they buying with their credit card? What movies do they rent? That kind of stuff to use in campaigns. So
did they go after Michael Steele?
Yeah. So I can see that, and we know that Jeff Wachowski's done pretty well for himself. He's gotten himself out of North Dakota, and he has a nice job and a new husband down in D.C. He works down there. On the Republican side, I find random. We get registered Republicans that we catch in 2 states. I'm working on a couple of those. But it's college students usually. And you never know whether somebody's registered as a Republican or a Democrat for some other nefarious reason, too.
That's true.
Some people are tactical, party members. Like, I'm a Democrat. Been a Democrat since 2005. So you never know. So what I do is I don't really care what party. If I see your name on 2 checklists, I see your name in 2 states or 3 states or 4 states, well then you go to the top of our list.
Yeah, I just look at this and kind of keep thinking, especially with all the stuff going on, like as I sent out a couple of links last night to our internal Grok crew list, with Obama's amnesty, it's now turning out they're going to get worker registration cards, the workers' permits. They're going to be campaigns too. They're going to be able to get the driver's licenses. Yep. They're basically going to get all of the documentation
and earned income tax credits.
Oh yeah, I was going to mention that. But they're getting everything that the normal person at the voting hall is going to say, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" Because you're not supposed to have a driver's license unless
they'll say "C."
Yeah. So basically, for all these little cases that you're going after now, they're thinking 5 to 10 million illegal aliens will now be able to vote as U.S. citizens. Right. And I'm back to the statement of, what's the use of being a U.S. citizen if anybody can vote? Our last...
right. We are honest enough not to vote because we know that simply having a green card does not, in fact, entitle us.
I'd catch you the next day.
It entitles me to pay taxes. Gee. Yeah. It allows me to participate in campaigns and donate, but it does not permit me to vote.
When you look at all these people that are moving in, right? don't think for a nanosecond that Obama's crowd doesn't know who they are, where they're going to live. They'll be in contact with community organizers. They'll work on campaigns. They'll vote. They'll move here and there to vote. That's how this works.
They may even be located strategically in districts they want to tip.
We actually have some leads in Manchester, in areas where we would find people who probably are in that category. So I have some. I'll help you when you're ready to do it out of Manchester and Nashua. So that's my next move.
I'm going to kind of take the tack of somebody who's a good citizen but looks at all this stuff going on and saying the Democrats are all in favor of this. Mm-hmm. They're playing not so much. We're trying to protect Congress, which we're elected to. We're not protecting and adhering to their oath to protect the Constitution. They're protecting Obama. They're very open about it. They're protecting their ideology. A lot of good citizens who aren't as involved as we are saying, what's the sense of even trying anymore? I mean, it is rather disheartening that these guys can vote. They're going to get all the entitlements that I have to pay for that they shouldn't be. You know, they just keep going down the list, and it gets longer and longer and longer. It's like, what is this? Why am I fighting?
We'll have a tipping point.
Yeah, and the question is, how soon
doesn't
is that?
bother me at all. I mean, treading water is no fun. I'd rather land on the beach and have it over with. So if we get to a tipping point, we have remedies in our Constitution for that as well. We have a Second Amendment. We have plenty of opportunities in the states, 50 states, to protect the states from the federal government. So that's where it's headed.
Well,
and if you look
wait a minute though. But they're now pushing that the federal law trumps the state law. We're seeing in state after state where the state said we're not going to give illegals a driver's license, and now the federal law is forcing them to do that. So what is the remedy?
The remedy is
for the states to say, hell no, you can't make us.
But they're not.
Well, they are in Alabama right now with the homosexual marriage deal.
Yeah,
some of the judges saying, you didn't win in all 50 of our counties, you haven't won.
Yeah.
So it's gradual. The gradual effort to make us into a socialist utopia is slow, and there'll be one incident that flips this. There'll be some impact on the American psyche where something happens and they go, that's it, that's enough.
Isn't that Roy Moore saying, "So sue me again" down in Alabama?
Yeah,
he's a fabulous guy.
But he got on the news with Chris Cuomo.
Yes,
and said our rights don't come from God. Those little things where you get a good look at your opponent, your political opponent, and he's talking heads that run the news. You say, that guy, why is he even there?
Okay,
that's the trigger.
Let's be careful because that's something I want to bring up because Steve had put up a post talking directly to that.
We're out of time.
We're out of time.
Dang.
Well,
segment.
Josh is running a couple minutes late, so we can pick it back up on the other side of the end of the segment, and then he'll be here to talk about.
My voter fraud stuff's done though.
Okay,
got that in.
So we can talk about that when we come back on Grok Talk.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen said, if you like your current health plan, you can keep it. That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by saberpac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
We are struggling. Rising healthcare costs are part of the problem. Senator Jeanne Shaheen helped create this mess we're in. As a state senator, her bill chased 21 insurers out of our state. It reduced our choices, raised prices for New Hampshire families, and when Jeanne Shaheen supported Obamacare, it limited access to 10 of our 26 hospitals, reducing our choices again. Tell Jeanne Shaheen she's made healthcare worse. Few things are as important as finding the right doctor. And under Obamacare, that's harder than ever. Over a third of our hospitals no longer available. Our doctors no longer covered. Fewer choices, longer drives. No state has been harder hit than us. And even after watching it impact New Hampshire, Congresswoman Ann Custer still supports it. Call Ann Custer. Tell her Obamacare isn't working for New Hampshire.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, CNHT.org.